President Trump's decision to declare a national emergency at the southern border has sparked legal and political changes. Democrats are calling the move a power grab and a gross abuse of power. Now, the ACLU and others have already filed lawsuits. Errol Barnett is traveling with the president. He is in West Palm Beach.
I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster.
President Trump conceded his impatience with Congress led him to declare a national emergency in order to secure border wall funding and crafted a hyperbolic interpretation of immigrants pouring into the U.S.
We have an invasion of drugs and criminals coming into our country.
According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, apprehensions are down 76% from a record high 19 years ago, and the number of undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. is at its lowest point since 2004.
They say walls don't work. Walls work 100%.
The administration is planning to spend roughly $8 billion to spend 234 miles of steel wall. In addition to the $1.4 billion agreed to by Congress, $600 million will come from the Treasury Department, and the rest will be from the Pentagon. $2.5 billion that would have been used to fight drug trafficking, and $3.6 billion taken from military construction projects.
And I won't go into details, but didn't sound too important to me.
He's been embarrassed, and his base needs to be fed.
California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom is filing a lawsuit to challenge the emergency declaration.
Donald Trump will see you in court.
The American Civil Liberties Union announced it would also file a suit. And House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler called for a hearing to investigate the serious constitutional and statutory issues the declaration raises.
If he gets away with this, presidents become much more powerful.
Sadly, we'll be sued, and sadly, it'll go through a process, and happily we'll win, I think.
Mr. Trump dismissed criticism suggesting he is setting a bad precedent, saying previous presidents have declared national emergencies.
The people that say we create precedent, well, what do you have, 56 or a lot of times? Well, that's creating precedent, and many of those are far less important than having a border.
Let's bring in CBSN political contributor and congressional reporter for The Hill, Molly Hooper. She joins us now from Washington. Hello, Molly.
Hello.
Tell me exactly what are the Democrats and even some Republicans, look, some Republicans have made clear they don't like this. So what are they planning to do to challenge the president's decision?
Well, as we've already heard, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, as she's now often referred to, has announced that she's going to introduce a joint resolution that would essentially prevent the president from declaring this a national emergency, the border crisis a national emergency, and that's a privileged resolution that will have a vote on the House floor, and then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will have to take that vote. And it's a majority vote, but at the same time, even if both chambers do pass something like that, the president can still veto it, and it requires 290 House members and 67 senators to override that veto. So it doesn't look necessarily like that would happen, but just the simple vote could be problematic for Republicans.
So, Molly, I'm even more interested in the Republicans. It's kind of predictable that the Democrats would oppose it. But what about the Republicans? I mean, what are some of those who have come out and said, we don't think this was a good idea? Is there anything that they can do at this point other than put out a statement to let their constituents know they're against it?
Well, they can vote. They can vote for that resolution that would essentially prevent the president from declaring this a national emergency. And that's where Trump has some problems ahead, because keep in mind, this argument is not necessarily a partisan argument. It's more of a separations of power argument. And in some ways, the separations of power argument, you have your Article 1 that created Congress, and Congress loves pointing that out. Article 2 creates the executive, the president. They're number 2. And one of the key responsibilities Congress has is power of the purse. I mean, this is something we learned in the 8th grade when we're studying for our Constitution test. I don't know if they still do that, but power of the purse. Congress controls the purse strings and where the money is spent. And essentially, when the president is declaring a national emergency to spend money, to reallocate it from areas, from military construction, money that Congress has already already spent and appropriated, that's a problem for many members up on Capitol Hill, regardless of which party you're in. And that's why it puts Republicans in a particularly tough place, because on the one hand, they need to placate their base, and
right.
A lot of them do believe a border wall is imperative. It's important. But at what cost? Because, I mean, keep in mind, as soon as President Trump came out and made this declaration, we had people, some of these new House Democrats saying, okay, next president, Democratic president, needs to declare climate change a national emergency.
Right.
And so this is where you start this issue of, number one, Congress relinquishing its authority to control how the money is spent, and number two, an overreach in terms of the president in saying, declaring what and how that money, our taxpaying dollars, can be spent.
Look, a lot of people think the only reason to stop him on this is to take him to court, right? And win it in the court. And I was actually on a call yesterday where Mick Mulvaney was briefing reporters before the president went into the Rose Garden. If you were on that call, you might remember the Chief of Staff Mulvaney saying, hey, listen, we have for a long time teamed up with our lawyers to figure out how to fight this at every legal turn, and we think we're solid on that issue. The reality is, if Congress can't get it done, maybe the courts are where it's at.
And that's a fair point. However, keep in mind, one more thing that the Congress can do, and this is something that was set, a precedent that was set in 2014 by then Mick Mulvaney, they can sue the administration for spending money that was not allocated for certain purposes. And in 2014, the then House Majority Republicans sued the Obama administration for essentially, giving money to insurance companies for Obamacare that was never allocated from Congress. And actually, a court found in favor of the Republicans, saying, yes, you do have standing in court to challenge the administration and to sue them when they essentially break the law and they overstep their bounds. So this is going to be kind of a complicated dance, if you will, and will definitely play into next year in the 2020 presidential election.
All right, that's fair. All right, let's switch gears. Politico is reporting that Democrats are gearing up to force the president to reveal his private conversations with Vladimir Putin. What's that about?
Oh, this is something, and I kind of chuckle to myself, because as soon as President Trump held the press conference last year with Vladimir Putin, in which Vladimir essentially, as he's so...
You sound like your friends, Molly.
Niet so. Essentially, when Vladimir Putin was saying, no, I told him it's okay, we didn't interfere, and the president says, oh, yeah, I totally believe that. He told me it was okay. Republicans and Democrats were a little concerned because, number one, there wasn't anybody in that room aside from the translators. In the private conversation that President Trump and Putin held before that freewheeling press conference, if you will, that raised a lot of alarm bells on Capitol Hill, including among key Republicans who privately told me, yes, we are concerned. I don't think we're going to necessarily subpoena the translators, but we're looking into it. And so the Democrats seized on that immediately last year and essentially set the wheels in motion that this is something that they were going to follow up on, and it was just a matter of time. And right now, House Democrats are coming into their own. They've been having hearings on, well, last week they were supposed to have some pretty, raucous hearings, which have been postponed or rescheduled, excuse me, on the family detention situation down at the border.
At the border, right.
Exactly. Opioid crisis. Michael Cohen was supposed to testify. There was just a lot of things that were postponed. There were several deaths in Congress. And so, the schedules just had to change because members of Congress were attending funerals. But really, we've finally seen House Democrats kicking into gear their oversight function. And this is something that, at the State of the Union, President Trump warned them, I'm warning you guys, if you start investigating me, I don't think we're going to do a lot of legislating. So here comes the oversight and the investigating.
What the party in power gets to do.
It is.
Molly,
It is.
Thank you for coming in on a Saturday.
Thank you.